My name is Alex Valle. I'm an old school fighting game player from Southern California. A lot of people know me as Cali Power. Others know me as Alex Valle. Oh, Seasons Beatings is great. I mean, I actually saw a lot of footage of like the hype of the Marvel community from its beginnings, you know, like on videos, and finally went to streams. And it was just one of those events that it's branched out from the traditional majors that are out there, because it primarily focuses on what people, the term the fighting game community enjoys, which is hype. And Marvel's the mecca, obviously, of Seasons Beating. So I wanted to go last year, but I just couldn't make it. So I made it a point to come this year. And you know, I'm just really glad to get a chance to play the East Coast and the Midwest players here. Oh, I'm playing Marvel, Persona, Tekken Tag 2, Arcade Edition. I think that and Super Turbo. And I just played Persona, and I qualified out of my bracket in top 8, but losers. And I'm playing Marvel pretty soon. My bracket's up soon. So the character of choice in the Street Fighter game that I use is Ryu. And just when I first played the game, it was like in the arcade, you know, Street Fighter 2 World Warrior, and there was no move list. Tried Chun-Li out because it was the first character that, you know, I actually found out the special moves for. But as you know, after not playing the computer, you start playing people, and people started doing special moves, and I just saw like, okay, Ryu and Ken throw cool fireballs. But I didn't start with Ryu yet. I picked Ken, so I just tried to do those fancy combos. But once like I met up with some true OG like competitive players, they wouldn't let me do any of those fancy combos, because I had to learn how to play the game properly, how to actually land a combo or sweep someone, and that was like Mike Watson, and he's like, yeah, if you really want to play this game, you should give Ryu a try, because he controls the pace of the game from offensive to defensive, and it's just, you know, you have the best of both worlds, so use it, you know, and you can adapt, you know, and you know, I took that, you know, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can find my own style with that. And since I like Ken, I like to play an offensive style, so I use that onto my Ryu gameplay. Oh man, it's there's a lot of I mean, you can call them in eras, like the arcade era, you know, it's like the age of discovery. There's no internet around there, so whatever people are doing to you that you've never met before, it's a new finding. Like, you kind of cherish that, and you kind of get addicted to, like, hey, I want to do that combo, or like, hey, I want to do that setup, and like, you're the only guy that can do it. And just finding that out, right, before looking up videos and anything that has to do with like easy searching, you know, that's what a lot of people came back to the arcades for, that unique feel. And I guess towards the end of, like, because there's not that many arcades left, and the internet, you know, it started to share a lot of information, people are starting to find these things faster. And now it's just a race of like, who can do it better, who can do it more efficiently. And now we have to travel to fight these guys, you know? And one of the pioneers that started this movement was Tom and Tony Cannon with the B tournaments, the B series, which was B3. He invited a lot of people for internet gathering in Street Fighter Alpha 2. And that kind of like got the name, you know, to the characters. Like, okay, that's a Ryu player, or that's a Cammy player, or, you know? And that era was like, what's the new addiction? You know, who is the best player? United States. Who's the best player? You know, Japan. You know, South America, Korea. It just, that moved on. So there's like different eras of finding out like who's better now, or which country is better. And that, on top of that, you know, the majors are born too. There's EVO, of course, which is the biggest one, and then there's, of course, we have Season Beatings here. We have Midwest Championships. Final rounds, SCR, NCR. I mean, there's a lot of great tournaments worldwide that show the appreciation of talent in these fighting games. And here we are today. Wednesday Night Fights, it actually started in my house, and it was around the time Street Fighter 4 was released on console. And it was during the GameStop qualifiers, and I invited people like, hey, you know, why don't you come out and play? And because there was just a new breed of players. You're not really playing with the arcade people anymore, because there's not many left. You're playing with people that just picked up the game, you know, and hoping to grab their interest in like competitive play. And I mean, it evolved from like playing from my house to somebody else's house into a friend's garage, because as public as we want our private homes to be, a lot of people didn't feel comfortable with. So at least in the garage, I mean, people look at it as like, hey, it's like having like, maybe a beer pong contest or something. Like people look at it as like, yeah, everybody can come. But and eventually evolve into a more structured weekly event that ironically ended up in an arcade, which we're at a super arcade now. And we hold our weekly events there, and the scene grew to past Street Fighter, of course. There's so many great games out there, so we had to extend it to another day on Thursday called the Run Back. So, I mean, we have 3 games on Wednesday Night Fights, which is Arcade Edition, Tekken Tag 2 now, and Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. And then on Thursdays, we have Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, King of Fighters, and Persona 4 Arena. So, I mean, it's crazy how, like, the scene grew. And I think one of the things I wanted to do for this scene in general is just to give that proper exposure to people getting that first interest into the game they want to play, because a lot of people return the games they buy within the first 2 weeks. So I mean, that's what we're striving for, to make sure that competitive play is presented well, and we also give them back to the people that place high and the people that give it a shot. You gotta be yourself, and you gotta be passionate about these things, because just like anything you do in life, if you're just out there to sell someone you don't really have a passion for, they're just gonna like see right through you, right? But then you talk to somebody like, hey, I see you play Street Fighter. I mean, do you like this game competitively? You like playing with your friends? You get to know them more in a little personal level first. It's very important, because that's community. It's how you build camaraderie, and that's I have lifelong friends in this community for over 15 plus years. Just finding out where they play, who they like to play with, and then it just spreads out to hey, you play with somebody and like 2 hours away from you, why don't we like gather up? It's like gathering up your friends for like just a random day of the week. It's like you're showing you're showing a little bit more than the game can offer at that point, because you're opening your doors to somebody you just met through a video game. It's much deeper than just playing the game itself. It begins with the player. You got to get them at at that interest level, that there's something there. And the game is, I think, like Street Fighter or Tekken or any of these games, they're just a channel. They're just like, we have that same common interest for that game, but after that game, we just want to talk about it now. You just made a friend. A lot of people don't see it that way, and a lot of people are curious of who the best is. Show them who the best is. It's something more deeper than just playing a video game at home. I think that's one of the things that with Wednesday Night Fights, we get the people to come watch what we're doing, and hopefully they would come out and enjoy like a spectator or a competitor themselves. So fostering a community is more of getting to know who's playing the game versus just playing the game itself. I kind of do it all. I'm like, it's kind of silly saying that you're retiring for video games, unless, I mean, respectfully, you got like your job or your education or something that you want to stop playing for a while, that's fine. But like, video games don't really require much to play, and this is what I've done for so many years. It's very easy for me to like just jump into a game and get good at it just by talent alone, and I see, like, back then I just wanted to play and I didn't want to organize anything. But we're at the state now, if I don't do it, or Chris Gallion and Harmon, they don't do it, who else is? Who's going to showcase what the grassroots community has built? It's really important to get everybody to understand the culture of our community, and if it's just to like say we're a bunch of nerds or the still stereotype, and we're never gonna grow that way, And I think I can still play and organize and keep maximizing the interest level. Like, hey man, I see Valle still playing, he still got it, or he's pushing his 30s and he's still placing top 8. It kind of like would give some inspiration for people that are still older and are married, have kids, but they can still play. Maybe they were good back then and they can give it a shot, and talk to the kids about it, shoot the shit and say, hey, I used to play with like the old school champion and he's still playing because he just has his love for the game. And it's kind of hard to explain, man, but I don't see video games like where it's taking everything out of you. It's so easy to just jump in and always have it ready to play with your next friend. So the first like big major that I won was B3 versus John Choi. That was like really close, and he was like my first road trip rival, and that one kind of like elevated me to be hungry for the title nationwide, because that was like the champion of NorCal, and after taking it from him, it's like, okay, I gotta see where I'm at with the rest of the country. And then I did that. I've won many tournaments, and then the next player, of course, that I had to really prove my skills against was the international player, if everybody knows, Daigo. And even though I lost, it was that close. He was a guy that at 17 won a tournament with over 10,000 people. Like they had 10,000 people but entered Alpha 3 nationals in Japan, and it was a huge success over there. And he was like the big winner, and nobody could touch him at the time. And when I played him in San Jose, I was like that close to beating him. So I think that was a really good moment. Even though I didn't win, it was like, if I would have beat him, I probably would have retired, because I played a long time from then on still. Because I played, the best in the country, then I played the best internationally, what's left, but he beat me. So that's like, okay, I gotta get back at him, And there's other great players that I've played and I've lost to that were close, but they're still memorable to me because I think they're important historical moments. The first time I played Justin Wong, because he pretty much is the next me. It's like the wins every single tournament. Duck Do was the Marvel champion. Playing Mike Watson again, even though after he retired. There's so many matches. And then, of course, I finally got my run back with Daigo when I beat him in Super Turbo. It was actually the arcade collection version, and Third Strike. It was I think Evo 2006. So, and we still have our good run-ins. Every Evo that I play him, it's always a memorable one. But not to discredit the other matches that I've played with today's top players, I think everybody that can do a little research of the guys that I've played are memorable historical matches, because I can still give it to them even though I'm pushing like mid-30s. So, yeah, it definitely needs to go places, because look at, early 80s or late, you see BMX racing and bikes or like skateboarding, right? Back then you wouldn't give those kids the time of day. And then you got like exports and you got like video games, made from these professional, X game athletes, And they, these kids back then, they made like a community for themselves. Maybe they were like misfits in high school or whatnot, causing trouble, or maybe they just really enjoyed the sport. And we have been there, since like the Pac-Man era. It's just there was no proper exposure for this phenomenon, for this competitive, like video gaming industry community, what have you. And we, as fighting game players, are finally getting that type of exposure, but we're in, I don't want to say the infancy anymore, because we have the streams to back up our exposure of who's the best in the world now. But I think we should be at least getting at to where the PC is. The PC is like an easy sell, because everything within every component of a PC sells in there. We're dealt with console, and there's a lesser of cell in there. So I think there's a lot of room to get us more involved in the mainstream. And Evo can be bigger. It's growing every year, and the events like Seasons Beatings and SCR, COs, those can get bigger. And I think it's just only a matter of time when either everybody gets it right, you know, there's some level of conformity where it's like, hey, maybe we structure it enough that, you know, somebody buys into it and goes, hey, we need to put this on TV. We need to put this on a movie. We need to, you know, these are guys that have amazing talent, and probably better than, and I quote like Seth Killian and all the other guys, probably they'll be better at something than you than, what was it? This is an awesome quote, and I hope I'm butchering it, but these guys will do something better than you will ever do in your entire life. You know, and that's something, you know, and if you can capture that moment and the emotions that people have to get there, you know, I mean, that is going to sell. That's going to show who we are. You know, we're good at something. We bring in hundreds and thousands of people to watch it over time. You know, we have the video game industry, the people that buy this stuff. You know, it's over like they sold 3 million copies of these games. You know, it's an ongoing phenomenon. You know, and I think we are still making the roadmap of how to get there.